Hello, good afternoon. We are the team that is going to explain in this presentation about the Fungi Kingdom. In this team is we are Roberto Carrillo, me, Oscar Adrián, Daniela Alejandro, Grecia Damiani, Daniela Chapa, and Alejandro Guadalupe Rodríguez Ham. So now let's go into the presentation. So what is the Fungi Kingdom? The Fungi Kingdom is one of the five kingdoms that classify the living beings. The Fungi Kingdom includes all the microscopic unicellular species, like in image 1, the yeasts, the pluricellular species that are like in image 2, the mosses, and the multicellular that like in image 3, the mushrooms or the fungi. They are all nucleated and nourished by decomposing organic matter. This means that they are heterotrophs. They form spores. Microscopic fungi, like in image 1, are sessile. This means that they cannot move, while the other two, the pluricellular and unicellular fungi, they don't present like a locomotion structure like a free way to move, but they move between sliding in surfaces, like in the surface of a tree or the floor or something like that. Now let's go to the next slide where my teammate Daniel is going to explain the following topic.
Division. The way fungi are classified are in four main divisions. This one made up for the way these fungus reproduce sexually. First, we have deuteromycetes, which have an asexual reproduction through conidia. Then we have zygomicota, which are bread molds. This one can have a sexual and an asexual reproductions where there are spores involved. Then we have ascomycota, which are yeasts and sac fungi. These sexually reproduce by ascospores and have another asexual reproduction by conidiospores. And our last division are basidiomycota, which are club fungi. These mushrooms are the most common type of basidiomycota fungi, and these have a sexual reproduction through basidiospores.
So now we have the four different classifications that fungi have. First, we have the Phycomycetes. Now, these are called algal fungi because they live in aquatic or water-based habitats. They have aseptate and cenocytic mycelium, and they also have this asexual reproduction that occurs through zoospores and planospores producing sporangia. Now, the second one is Ascomycetes. This type of fungi have one main characteristic that their reproductive structure is different, is known as ascus or asci. Mostly they are terrestrial, parasitic, and coprophilous fungi. They can be both unicellular and multicellular fungi, and the mycelium is made up of separate and branch hyphae. Now the third one is Basidiomycota. These ones are typically filamentous fungi that are composed by hyphae. Most species reproduces sexually with a scrub-shaped spore-bearing organ called the basidium, and this organ usually produces the for the sexual spores that these spores are called basidiospores. And now the last one in the fourth class of fungi is called the Deuteromycetes. These ones are commonly called molds. These ones are like second class fungi. They have no known sexual state in their life because they reproduce via mitosis. And this asexual state is also called the anamorph state.
Hi, I am Oscar González and I will talk about the different subkingdoms of the Fungi Kingdom. First of all, we will have the Eumycota, that is the mycelium septate, and the difference from it is the Umycota, that is the mycelium aseptate. Then of it, we will have the Gymnomycota, that is the slime molds now excluded from fungi and placed under the protista. From the Eumycota mycelium septate will have first of all the Mycophyta, that is explained as dual organisms. An example of it in Latin can be the Usnea or the Pamelia. Another subdivision of the subdivision Eumycota is the Deuteromycota, that is the sexual reproduction absent. It also can be explained as the fungi imperfecti. An example of it can be the Alternaria, the Corcospora, the Microsporum, or the Trichophyton. Another subdivision of the subdivision Eumycota is the Ascomycota, that is a sac fungi. An example of it can be the Aspergillus, the Penicillium, or the Neurospora. And the last subdivision of this subdivision is the Basidiomycota, that is the club fungi, that is the Puccinum, the Ustilago, or Agaricus, that are examples of this subdivision. If we pass to the Eumycota subdivision, that is the mycelium aseptate, a different of the septate, that is the Eumycota, will have the Zygomycetes or the Phycomycetes. On the Zygomycetes, that is explained as a conjugation fungi, we'll have an example that is the Rhizopus mocur. And in the Phycomycetes, that is the other part of the Eumycota, can be explained as Eumycetes algal fungi. We'll have as an example in Latin, obviously, the Phytophthora or the Albuco or Pythium. As we can appreciate, the subdivisions of the fungi kingdom are many. And as we will see with the next part of this presentation with my next teammate, there are more or near to 120 different kind of fungi. So the subdivisions, there are a lot of them. This is just an example of some of the most important, also not counting the different families that we will next be presenting on this presentation, or the principal divisions that they are already stated on with the last teammate of this presentation. So thank you. We'll now pass with Grecia talking about the different orders in the classifications of the fungi kingdom. Thank you.
An order is a taxonomic rank used in the classification of organisms and recognized by the nomenclature codes. There are over 120 orders of fungi, and I'm going to show you some examples. The first example that we have is the Agariochomycetes, that looks like mushrooms and polypores. Then we have Dotidomycetes, which look like molds. Then we have Tremelomycetes that look a little bit like yeasts. Then we have Leishomycetes that look like plant pathogens and saprobes. And finally, we have Uromycetes that look a little bit like mold.
Well, and the families, the first one is the chytrids. There are a division of subtropic organisms in the kingdom of fungi, obviously. And well, there are informally known as chytrids. And the bread molds are a part of, well, they are kind of a division of the fungi, but they include about like 1,000 species and a lot of developing in the sense of sexual organisms and its origin, like non-swimming species and asexual origins. Yeah, and other one is the yeast and sac fungi. It is a fungi that separates the mycelium that produce all the origin. Also, they can be unicellular, and they have a lot of they can survive in a lot of extreme places. And finally, the club fungi, it is a, well, it's a division of the fungi kingdom, right? But also it includes a lot of basidia and a lot of basio procytes, and there are the families.